Hey guys, Natasha Weston here, and I wanted to just hop on YouTube and introduce myself to all of my new subscribers and to anybody who just stumbled upon this channel, who stumbled upon my website, or found me on social media and wanted to know a little bit about my story, my background, and just get to know me. So I'm going to tell you everything except my social security number. This is going to be a get to know me video. I've seen a ton of them here on YouTube, and I said, you know, it'd be pretty cool for me to do something similar. So this video is just going to be me blabbing on about my life, my background, and how I got to this place here on YouTube. So if you're interested in learning about yours truly, where I came from, what my mission in life is, what my background is, and all that good stuff, then just keep watching. My name is Natasha, and I am a 28-year-old mom, entrepreneur, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, and I currently reside in the Summerville area of Charleston, South Carolina. I am a born and raised Charlestonian. I grew up in Mount Pleasant, which is over by the beaches. So if you've ever heard of Charleston, most people always ask me first, is it by the beach? Yes, it's by the beach. And I grew up in Mount Pleasant. Grew up in a pretty, decent household, 2 parents. My mom and my dad were married for several years. And I have a little sister, T. West, and she's 2 years younger than I am. And then I have an older brother who is, don't quote me on this, but I believe he's 39. Yeah, I think he just turned 39, and he is in the military. He's been in the military since 1997, and he's getting ready to retire next year. So he's been in there for almost all his life. And that's because my mom gave him 2 options. You either get out of my house, or you getting a job, or you doing something, but you can't live here. So anyway, so yes, I'm the middle child. And I have to say that I was a good child most of my life, meaning I went to school, I tried to stay out of my parents' way as far as getting in trouble. Whereas my younger sister, she's kind of like the rebel in the family. And then, of course, my brother, he's disciplined, he's military, right? Grew up in a 2-parent household, and I think for the most part, I lived a pretty normal childhood. I'm not even going to sit here and try to paint this crazy story that I had a crazy childhood, because I didn't. I lived a pretty normal, healthy childhood. Like I said, 2-parent household. Mom and dad were married, had a sister. My brother and I have different fathers. Life started to get interesting when I got to, I'll say high school. My freshman year was when we started to really start to face some crazy stuff. And my normal childhood started to feel like it wasn't so normal anymore, because when you grow up and as far as your family's bills are paid, and you have clothes on your back and shoes on your feet and food to eat, then childhood is pretty normal, right? So my freshman year of high school was kind of like my breaking out of my shell point. I was very shy for most of my childhood. I got teased a lot. And I got teased a lot because I was like really skinny and I had really big teeth. I still think I got big teeth, but I've grown into them and I love my teeth. And then I had this burn that I got when I was 4, I think. And so I was always like really self-conscious about it. And of course, kids are cruel, and they were cruel back then, so I'm sure they're really cruel now. And yeah, I got teased a lot, and all I wanted to do was go to school and be a good kid. Freshman year of high school was when life started to really get crazy for my family. But even then, like, my sister and I, we still were kind of in the blind as to what my family was going through financially. Long story short, we lost our home. We started going through foreclosure issues. My dad was in and out of work. And the job that he had been on for several years was getting ready to be no more. My mom, she always pretty much tried to be home with me and my sister and my brother as much as she could, because she believed that, parents needed to be present in the home. And I thank her so much for that to this day. She was one of those parents where she wanted to take us to school, drop us off. She didn't really necessarily want us on the bus because, she really allowed her mother instincts to lead and guide her. And, you know, she knew all of the issues that kids were going through, especially when you go to school, you get to school after being teased all morning from riding the bus, or just little things like that that some parents maybe don't consider. So she always, you know, took us to school and picked us up all through high school. And if she couldn't do it, my grandma would come and do it. And so, like I said, pretty normal childhood. High school was a huge transition for me, being, you know, going from the shy girl to coming into my own and starting to, you know, see my family get into this struggle stage in a sense. So went through high school, made really good grades, and then in my senior year was when we started to really battle with our home, the home that we built from the ground up when we were smaller. And my mom and dad started to run into marital issues, as most people would. If you start running into financial problems, more than likely, you know, your relationship starts to get tense. Senior year of high school, I'm doing really well. As a matter of fact, I made a 1400 on the SAT, so I did really good, I think. Pat on my back. So, yeah, so made really good grades, did a great job in high school. You know, started to come out of my shell a lot. I still think I was pretty shy, but graduated. But right before graduation, I just remember my sister and I started to hear parents talking about some of the issues that were going on financially, and we were just running into all sorts of problems. The home that we lived in, that we grew up in, the home that we knew, the home that we had memories in, was starting to be taken away from us illegally. My grandma was picking us up from school that day, and normally she'll pick us up, take us home, and this particular day she picked my sister and I up, and all I can remember is, because the way my grandma's house and our house was set up, my grandma's house was in the front and our house was in the back, so it was well in walking distance. And then you have an aunt here, aunt there, uncle here, and my grandma's sister on the other side. So we called it the hill. So everybody lived in the same area. I just remember pulling up that day, and our house was down this long dirt road. And I just remember pulling up and seeing nothing but sheriff cars, unmarked, marked, police cars, all down the road that we lived on, which is Snowden Road, and all down our driveway, our dirt road. And I just remember when we pulled up, seeing my heart drop, like just feeling my heart just drop completely. Get out the car. Of course, I run to the yard because I'm like, okay, these police cars are here. Where are my parents? Walk in the yard. My parents are handcuffed in the back seat. Now, you know, coming from a pretty normal childhood to seeing something like that, it was life-changing. It was horrifying, to come up with a lack of better words, really, because I just remember crying and pleading, let my parents go, and it was hard. You know, it was really hard to watch. I'm not exactly sure, even to this day, all of the details, but I know that the house was taken from us illegally through foreclosure. So we had like maybe a week to move, if that long. It was so long ago, I really don't remember. But I just remember all of our family members being outside and watching, and it was so embarrassing. It was, like I said, life-changing. And we ended up having to move up front to my grandma's house and staying with her. And I can't remember how long we stayed with her. But anyway, I graduated from high school, and instead of going off to a college like most of my peers did, I decided to go right to Charleston Southern University, which is right in the Charleston area. And, you know, I was shy, of course. I didn't want to live on campus because I didn't want a roommate and all that stuff. I wasn't very social at that time. Like, it's hard to believe that now, right? Sorry, battery 10%, so I'm going to have to plug my phone up in a minute. But, yeah, so I wasn't very social. So, anyway, enrolled in college for business administration. And this was in August 2006, because I graduated June 2006. So August 2006, I'm going to Charleston Southern University, and I'm doing pretty well in school. And, you know, of course, when things at home aren't well or aren't that great, you know, it's hard to focus in college. So I ended up finishing up my first year and dropping out, or taking a break, as I called it. And I got a job at a local accessory boutique. and I worked there for $6.50 an hour, and I was like a slave almost. Like, that job was horrible. That job was horrible. Like, I mean, I don't even know what I worked for $6.50. That is just absolutely insane. Anyway, yeah. So work there, and then of course, you know, you work minimum wage. Like, you're not getting nothing accomplished, really. Like, that's literally lunch money. So I did that, and I think I worked there for a year and a half, and then I started saying, you know what, I can't do this for the rest of my life because I'm not making no money. Like, I'm just not getting anywhere. And then a part of me was feeling like, you know, all of my peers, like the people I went to school with, like, they're in college. Like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing? So, of course, you know, talking to family and stuff, and, you know, I have a cousin who's a registered nurse. At that time, she was traveling, and she was making bank. She was making moolah. That inspired me. Like, anybody that's making money is inspiring, right? So, anyway, I kind of modeled her, and I saw her, and I was like, you know, I could be doing that. I don't have any kids. Like, why am I just wasting time away? So, started doing research, found a nursing program. My mom found one at a tech school in Pendleton, South Carolina, that had a bridge program to Clemson University. So I ended up enrolling there, getting a little small studio apartment, and started going to school. This part of my life was like my college. These were my true college years, because I lived there for that year, and during that first year, my mom ended up getting her job transferred, and she moved to Greenville, South Carolina, which is like 30 minutes from Clemson, so within driving distance. So she got her job transferred to Greenville, but before she could afford to get an apartment, she was living with me in my little studio apartment, her and my sister. So if y'all can imagine, we was just really uncomfortable. But, you know, we made it do what it do. Hold on, y'all. Let me charge up my phone. It's gonna go dead. Oh. So allow, and let's carry on. So yeah, we were very uncomfortable, and I don't remember how long she lived with me, but anyway, she ended up, you know, getting a few paychecks and able to move into her own duplex. And after that, I started getting out a lot more, partying, meeting people, and thankfully, who is now one of my best friends, she was going to Clemson at the time, and she had three roommates. Yeah, she was the fourth one. I started hanging out with them. I started meeting people, and, you know, I'm like living a college life now. So after my first year there, I decided that I wanted to move, because where my studio apartment was, it was like on the other side of the town. So it was on the far end of Clemson. And, you know, all my friends now, they're like in the city, like where all of the apartment complexes are and everything. So I had already known that after my first year that I was going to want to, you know, move where everybody else was. So I did, and through random assignment, I found two roommates who are now still two of my bestest friends in the world, and we hit it off. We had an amazing time. That ended up, I think, 2 years. Yeah, 2 years, because I ended up staying there for about 2.5 years. So anyway, partying up, living it up, living a college life, and reality slapped me again. You know how those reality checks are, y'all. Like, okay, so now this is the second one. After that minimum wage job, I had to get up out of there, and then now I'm in school, I'm having a good time, and I'm making good grades, but then I find myself in a place where I'm still not happy. I'm like still guessing, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going to school for the right thing? And I did say I was going to school for nursing, right? I don't remember if I said that, but that's what I was going to school for. I think I said that, but just in case I didn't. Yeah, reality slaps me again. I'm like, okay, I don't really want to be a nurse. Like, I just don't. Like, what am I doing? I don't even like blood. And what am I doing? So, finished up that semester and decided to move to Greenville and sleep on my mom's couch. Now we enter into a new section of my life, y'all. So let's get ready for this one. Here I am now in my mom's little duplex. And I'm sure I was invading her space, but, you know, she's my mom and she loves me. Right? Now I'm on my mom's couch. College dropout now at this point, like legit, because like with the first year I dropped out after a year, and then now, you know, I got all the partying out my system, so now I'm ready to get serious about life. So anyway, here I am now. I'm like completely lost, confused, feeling just hopeless because I'm like, I'm supposed to be in college. I'm supposed to be almost graduating right now. And now I'm like dropped out again. Now I've graduated high school 3 years ago. And while my friends from high school are about to graduate and probably get married and have some kids, here I am just, you know, really feeling worthless. So I had a cousin that they would always text me pictures of clothes and you know, asking me to help them put outfits together and stuff like that, that, you know, I actually enjoyed doing for a long time because I was always into fashion. And one night in particular, one of my cousins, shout out to Oshana, she texted me. She was in Steinmart, and she texted me an outfit. If I'm not mistaken, it was a distressed t-shirt, some jeans, and she was going to wear some chucks or something. She's like, hey, how does this look? So I was like, you know, giving her advice and stuff on how the outfit looked, and she was like, you know, okay. So light bulb went off again. I'm like, you know what? You could probably be getting paid to do this. I started doing research on fashion, and I had no idea that there was such a thing called fashion styling. So I started doing research, came across a book by Kim Maxwell. Can't remember the name of it, but long story short, the book was about fashion styling and how to break into the industry. And one of the main points that stuck out to me in that book was that, you know, it was important to get experience, get internships, and work with already established stylists. So I'm like, okay, I live in South Carolina. We don't really have a fashion industry here. So I was like, okay, so now I got to come up with a plan because I need to get experience, and I'm probably not going to get it here in South Carolina. So I started doing research, and I really to this day believe that research is one of my gifts because I was able to really dig and find what I needed. I hope y'all on board. It gets better, I promise. Come across this young lady, Caucasian lady actually, who used to work for BET Networks. And I, you know, told her straight up, look, I'm not in college. I don't have any fashion history, background, experience, whatever. But I need, you know, I need to get some styling experience because, you know, I'm in South Carolina. We don't really have many stylists here. I don't even know if we have any stylists here. And she graciously responded and gave me a contact at BET Networks to reach out to. While all of this is going on, I had obviously reached out to quite a few celebrity stylists because I felt like, you know, I was at a stage where, you know, I'm already behind in life. Like, you know, I should be graduating. Like, I hope y'all don't hear the kids yelling outside. I can't mute them out when I edit this video, just so y'all know. So I already am feeling like I'm behind, so I got to go big or go home. So I can't just go work for some mediocre boutique here in Charleston. Like, I have to, or in Greenville, I have to, you know, aim for the top. Like, I got to go hard, like, from the gate. So around the same time of me getting the contact at BET, I had already reached out to a stylist who used to work with 50 Cent, G-Unit, Lloyd Banks, Tony Yayo, all of those guys out in New York. And I had reached out to her because she was looking for interns, I think through Twitter. And I reached out to her like a month prior, I believe, and she never responded. Well, around the same time, she responded, and it was late one night. She sent me a text and was like, hey, call me at like 10 o'clock that night. So I called her, and she, you know, asked me if I had a passport, if I was in New York. And y'all, me being hungry, I lied. And I said yes. And she said, okay, well, I think she was in Michigan filming a movie with 50 Cent or something. And that when she got back home, she would call me and like set something up. So before this woman could call me back, y'all, I was already in New York City because I was not playing no games. I was not going to take a chance of missing the opportunity. I get to New York, don't hear nothing from her. So anyway, I ended up coming back home and came back home, and some time went by. I can't remember exactly how much time went by, and reached out to the wardrobe director at BET Networks, told her the same thing I told the other lady to connect. And I said, hey, I don't have a college. I'm not in college. And you know, most big networks, they require you to be getting some type of college credit to, you know, intern for them. But I told her up front, I wasn't in college. I didn't have any fashion experience to put on a resume, but that I wanted to get the experience. Well, anyway, she ended up giving me the opportunity, giving me a start date, and I ended up getting my dad to buy me a train ticket, and I was out. Like, Ended up going to New York, and that was the only part of the plan that I knew, that I was clear on, was that I was going to have an internship with BET. And this was around the time, well, 106 in Park was still hot, and Terrence and Roxy were fairly new, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Well, anyway, started doing an internship. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but now here I am stuck in New York, and I don't know what in the heck I'm about to do next. So I started doing more research right on my aunt's couch. Shout out to my Aunt Cindy, who is Oceana's mama. So you see, the daughter and the mom, they played a very intricate part in this journey here. Started doing some research, and I come across a guy named Kendrell Bowman, who I found out is from Charleston, South Carolina. Small world, huh? So reach out to him, and I tell him the same thing. Look, I want to try this fashion styling thing, but I don't have any experience. You know, hey, can I come shadow you, or something like that. So he ended up giving me the opportunity. Went to his house in Harlem, and we've been friends ever since, actually. But here's the funny thing. I started shadowing him and working as his assistant. And he was styling K. Michelle when she first came out, like when she had the blue crazy hair. And yeah, so I helped him style her. I was his assistant around that same time. And one thing I learned after going through all this heck to get to New York, can y'all guess? I didn't want to be a darn fashion stylist. Like, it's not what it looks like. Yeah, that chapter ended quick. Discovered that I did not want to be a fashion stylist, but I was determined not to stop there. So around the same time, I was doing some work with a local New York fashion designer, Fabric Twins. And so I was doing a lot of reaching out to magazines and blogs and getting them placement and getting them on celebrities and all that, fun stuff, what I thought at the time. It was only a matter of time before I tapped into the public relations industry from a fashion aspect, and I really loved it. I love to see clients and to see people I work with get in magazines and get featured and get exposure. It was like a adrenaline rush. Like, I loved it. And so I eventually ended up getting an internship with a A-list fashion designer and her daughter, Miss Angela and Tiffany Dean. And they gave me the opportunity to work with them virtually. So they were out in the Beverly Hills, and, I was in New York. And so once I started doing PR with them, it was like, okay, you could start your own business doing this. Like, you could really make money doing this. So ended up moving back to South Carolina and really working more in the PR industry. Ended up working with Monique Jackson, Keita Williams, and you probably know them from the T.O. show. They are phenomenal women public relation experts in the entertainment industry. And they were the ones that sparked the vision board phenomenon in me. And I didn't know a thing about vision boards until then. But it was with them that I made my first vision board. Ended up having my first black tie event in Charleston, and it was a complete flop. Nobody showed up, like nobody but my mom, my dad, my sister, a couple of her friends, and it just didn't go that well. So that was like my first really big disappointment being an entrepreneur. And I'm glad that it happened, though, because it definitely inspired me. And now I can go to friends' events, and when their events aren't what they plan them to be, I can, encourage them a little bit. So, experience is good, y'all. Like, failures are great. Moved back to South Carolina, started working with Mo and Keita and all that stuff. And I had a really amazing accomplishment and a milestone when I was working with Tiffany and Miss Angela. They came out with this new line of jersey dresses, and I reached out to Wendy Williams, stylist, and ended up getting her jersey dress on Wendy Williams, and it became a staple for Wendy. You can Google it and see her. I think she did a video clip about it. But anyway, the jersey dresses became a staple for Wendy because they were easy to travel with, and she didn't really have to, I don't think you didn't have to iron them at all. But that became like a highlight in my career because I was responsible for that. And so it made me feel like, okay, you can like take this thing to another level. So I dibbled and dabbled in PR for a little bit. And then, of course, with anything else, you just try things out and see what you like and what you don't like. And I went through a long phase of just trying different things. And my first company, Eloquence Enterprises, was a creative services based company where we helped new entrepreneurs to come up with, business cards, logos, the creative aspect of their business. And I really loved that. Like, I loved it, loved it, loved it. But of course, you know, as I started to grow, I started to tap into my purpose. And, you know, I figured out that that was a great business, but it wasn't thriving the way I wanted it to, because I was born to do so much more. And this is when I really started to break out of my shell and started to really tap into and be honest with what I like to do and the things that I loved. And one of those things was to motivate people, especially my age, to, you know, not let life take them down, but to live unapologetically and to realize that you could be going through like the hell of hells, but that you could still do the things that you dream about doing. And I got really serious about living my dreams. And so I started doing YouTube videos, and you could like go back down and watch them. They're hideous. So I just started doing YouTube videos and just talking about things that I liked. And it was in 2011 on Christmas Eve, I met my child's father. I ended up having Tyler, and when I was pregnant with Tyler, I was working at a bank in Greenville. And I was working at a bank in Greenville, and I still knew it was more. But when I got pregnant, it was kind of like, okay, now you got to take this thing serious if you're going to, you know, make real money and be able to take care of your, your child. So I started my first blog, Table Talk with Toddy, and I would just share stuff that I liked, like fashion, beauty products, things about entrepreneurship that I learned, business tips, so things on social media. You know, I just kind of shared whatever it was that I was interested in, you know, hoping that the people that read my blog were interested too. It's kind of what you do when you're a blogger. I remember doing this series of blog posts, and I called it 10 Ways to Start Your Business with, you know, no money, because I had done it. And that series of blog posts, like, I got the most hits on that series than ever. Like, people from all over the world were reading that blog series. So when I got pregnant, of course, by now I've abandoned it because I, you know, didn't stay consistent with that. Of course not, right? So I abandoned the blog long before I got pregnant. And when I got pregnant, I was like, okay, I've got to do something to create some residual income. Like, I've got to make some money while I sleep. I can't just work this job and expect to pursue my dreams and take care of a child. Like, that's just not going to happen. So then I was listening to Tiffany Montgomery one night. I remember my mom and I were listening to her one night, and I remember she was just talking about writing books, and that kind of lit the light bulb. Like, okay, you could probably write a book. So now I'm like, okay, what do I write this book on? And so this series of blog posts that I did came back to mind. I was like, you know, this would be like perfect. All I have to do is pull that blog series back up and elaborate on each point and give people more information. So that's how my first book, 10 Effective Ways to Start Your Business with $0, was born. And I don't remember, but it didn't take me long to write that book, because when Tyler was born, I had already published the book and everything. So he was 3 months old when the book came out. This was almost 3 years ago now. So June 21st, 2014 was when the book was released. And to this day, the book still does phenomenally well. And I'm proud of that, because I wrote that book while I was pregnant. Very pregnant. I think I was 6 months pregnant when I wrote that book. And so that was like my first experience knowing that it does not matter where you are now, you can do whatever it is that you want to do if you don't make any excuses. So wrote that book. It did really, 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 really well. Fast forward, I have Tyler. Now, right before I go on maternity leave, my job starts to lay people off, because the department that I worked in was getting ready to move or be transferred to North Carolina, where they had built a new facility. Now, I knew I couldn't move to North Carolina, and I was just working as a temp for this company anyway, so I was like the first one out the door. So I found this out not long before I was getting ready to clock out anyway for maternity leave. So I knew then, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to get off maternity leave after 6 weeks and go back to a job unless I find one in the meantime. So, of course, I start planning to stay home. Thank God I was able to stay home with my son for a good year and a half, really, before I went back into corporate America. You know, over the last few years, it's been a lot of ups and downs. Obviously, things haven't always been up. And I'll just, I'm trying to share as much as I can without keeping you here too long. But the week Tyler was born, the place that we lived in, my mom and I, we had fell behind in the rent, obviously because I wasn't working. And we were on the verge of getting evicted. And so we had the option of either coming up with all the money we owed or just getting another place. Tyler was like barely a week old. I want to say 3 or 4 days. And of course, you just have a baby. You're not supposed to be lifting, moving, nothing. We had to move. And I remember, we didn't have a place yet. We didn't have a place to live. So I just remember we lived in a hotel for a little bit. And that was when I realized that God was putting me through all of this craziness to have this story to share. I would have never been able to share anything if I didn't go through stuff like that. And that was just one scenario. Lived in Greenville, had my son, stayed home. At this time, we're living somewhere else now. And we lived there for a year. And around the time it was time for us to renew our lease there, my grandma, she was starting to come up and visit us a lot because she was getting older, of course. And my mom is the youngest out of her 7 siblings. So she was the only one that could really physically and spiritually take care of my grandma. And my grandma enjoyed being around my mom, actually. So, but of course, we're in a small townhouse, so, space. And you got Tyler, who's a little newborn, well, infant at that time. And so it started to get a little uncomfortable. So my mom was starting to, consider moving back here to Charleston to be able to take care of my grandma a little bit better. And so around the same time, now the house that we grew up in, obviously people had not lived in and out of that house for all of these years that we had already moved. And the owners of the house reached out to my mom. I don't know how they got in contact with her. Reached out to my mom and pretty much said, hey, we want you back in your house. Of course, this is like exciting news and like perfect because now she's thinking about moving back home to take care of her mom. So it was almost like everything just kind of worked out. Long story short, we ended up moving back to Charleston. As soon as we got back here, my grandma started to get really sick. One day they took her to the doctor because her leg kept hurting. And she didn't even leave the hospital that day without her leg amputated. She ended up having to get her leg amputated. And then she just slowly went downhill from there. She ended up passing away in May this year. And my mom sacrificed pretty much everything. When I say everything, she moved here hoping that her job would eventually transfer her. That never worked out. So now she's having to tap into all of her savings and everything that she did accumulate all of these years just to take care of her mom. So me being her daughter and understanding the importance of her being there for her mother during this really, unfortunate time before my grandma passed, I decided to just carry the torch. I get a job at another bank here in Charleston. And right about maybe 3 months before we hit the 1-year mark, the owners of the house started to take back their promise to allow us time to, get the house back 100% in our name and all that stuff. They started to renege on it. Now here we are. I've already invested all this money this year and sacrificed so much, including my business, really, because I didn't really have time for it. And now here we are probably having to move out again. And so now you have my mom who sacrificed everything, so she doesn't have anything. And then you've got me who's pretty much sacrificing everything. I'm going to work every day and still broke and not able to do much. We find ourselves in this place where we're now forced to move again. So, I'm having flashbacks like, gosh, why did you push us back here if you were just going to move us back out? Start questioning God for everything. And long story short, I ended up, thank God, coming up with money to move into the place that I'm in now. And I have to say, this last year has been necessary. The most uncomfortable year of my life, but so necessary. Necessary because I've grown so much and I'm so much more confident. Like, life is so weird. The craziest hell that you go through makes you the best person. And although there's still a lot of things that I'm struggling with, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I feel like this has been my breakout year for sure. And I didn't even share with you guys the half of everything that's gone on, but you know, vision boards have helped me out tremendously. Last year, November, I put on my vision board empire because I've been wanting to pursue, you know, TV hosting and really, you know, trying to allow myself the ability to touch people's lives through video and through speaking and through sharing this same story with women, especially millennials all over the world who may be struggling and going through some of these similar things, but to use my voice to do that. And so I started tapping into the TV industry. I had filmed a few episodes of Being Mary Jane last year maybe. In January, I was able to film for Empire, invited to the United States of Women Summit, the first one ever in DC. The White House recognized me for, you know, all the work that I've been putting in for women and gender equality. So to be there and to be in the presence of Oprah and Michelle Obama, especially before the Obamas left the White House, everything this year, it's been rough, but it's been a phenomenal year. And I'm just thankful because I feel like now I'm able to impact more lives because of everything that I've gone through, the trial, the error, you know, having to navigate through life and not being clear on what industry or what job I'm supposed to have, and just getting to the place where I am confident with me and I'm allowing God to really lead me and guide me into what it is that I do each and every day that I wake up. Now here I have written book number 2, and I'm here on YouTube, and I'm able to consistently put out videos and just share my message and share the wisdom and the knowledge that I've attained over the years. I'm thankful for it. I just really wanted to get acquainted with you and just give you a little background, a little history on who I am and how I got to this place, and just to encourage you and motivate you to continue to wake up every day being optimistic, wake up every day being inspired, find something that inspires you. And don't allow people to dictate what you do every day, and know that we weren't born or created to just work and die, but we're born and created to impact and to be effective in people's lives, whether it's one person or a million people. My mission in life is to use the influence that I've gained over the years and to give back to people by being open and transparent, and by sharing my story, and by not allowing everyday life circumstances to keep me down, and to embrace them and share and use everything I go through as a testimony and as a story to inspire somebody else. I hope that you guys enjoyed this story time with me. And like I keep saying, be motivated. Motivation is the root of success. If you're not motivated, you won't do anything. And so if I can encourage you to do one thing, if I could give you one piece of advice, it would be to live life unapologetically and realize that every day we wake up, we're just turning down one lane, and each lane or each road or each highway is what's going to get us to our final destination. It's what's going to get us to the place where we can live our dreams. And that's what I'm doing. And I just want to take you guys along this journey with me. And let's do this together. Let's stay motivated. And I just hope that this channel and that every social media outlet that you see me on, every event that you see me at, wherever you see me, especially in the digital space, that you see motivation, that you see an encourager, somebody that wants to see you win. So guys, be encouraged. Remember that motivation is the oxygen that you need to succeed. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.